after the, oh no, I think I have to, I don't know. But yeah, the North Coast Growers Association was founded to help support those farmers. We were able to access some grant funding to be able to pay for a market manager, things like that. And also one of the primary goals of NCGA was to connect farmers to wholesale buyers, which is something that until recently we started moving away from into farmers markets. So currently we have about 180 members, which are individual businesses who sell through our farmers market. So we have farmers, ranchers, fisher folk, also prepared food vendors, people who do things like soap and salves and tinctures and all that sort of good stuff. We operate 11 certified farmers markets here in Humboldt. We also do continuing education for farmers through our agricultural programs section, and also cooperative distribution, which is my sector. So for our certified farmers markets, what makes a farmers market certified is that the county agricultural inspector actually goes to each one of our farms and certifies that they are growing what they're selling. Which is important because there are people historically who have, just gone and gotten just wholesale pricing on really subpar produce and tried to sell it as if it was theirs. So that's the main difference between a certified farmers market and just someone being able to pop up and say that they have a farmers market is, all of our farmers are actually growing what they're selling. And they're also growing what they're selling here in Humboldt County. And it is all 100% non-GMO. So that's something that sort of sets us apart from other certified farmers markets in the state, where they might have farmers coming from multiple counties all to come to their farmers market, and they don't necessarily require it all to be non-GMO. So cooperative distribution, again, is what I do. It started out about 2.5 years ago with the Harvest Box. That is our multi-farm CSA that we created as a response to the COVID pandemic. It was basically people could order a box online. They show up at the farmer's market. They would even write their name on a piece of paper and hold it up to the window so they didn't even need to roll down the window. And then we would bring their box and put it in the trunk of their car. And that has grown to have, we just piloted a home delivery option this year that we are going to continue. And now we have a distribution site in Eureka as well as at the Arcata Farmers Market. We have an average of about 100 boxes per week over the summer. And we are year round. So that's something else that's unique because most farmers who do CSA boxes only do it in the height of the growing season. But because we can source from multiple farmers, we can go year round. And we can also have a greater variety per box because in the height of the summer, you can get peaches from Willow Creek, but then we can still get kale from our coastal farmers. So it's a really unique program. Something else that we have done this year is our farm to freezer project. Last year, Humboldt Bay Packers closed, which was a rentable cold storage facility. It was sort of the only large scale freezer facility that was left in Humboldt. So I got a call from one of our ranchers who said, hey, I've got pallets of meat that I need to move and I don't know where to move it to. And we called all over and there was literally no place to move this meat to except for a cannabis freezer that was turned off. So they had a couple months to just try to sell off all of their meat. One of the ranchers actually went and bought, I think, 8 or 10 chest freezers to put on their farm to store it, which isn't always the most efficient. So we launched a giving campaign and we raised money. So now we own a 20-foot freezer unit, sort of external freezer unit. It's parked in the city of Blue Lake. It's got a couple cows in there. We've got a couple tons of salmon in there right now. So it was really just a great resource for our farmers. We're holding off. There's about to be a bunch of turkeys in there because Thanksgiving's coming on. So it just really makes it so that farmers who don't necessarily have the capital to invest in a ton of freezers to put on their farm can still schedule slaughter days, go out fishing, plan to do a flock of turkeys for Thanksgiving and not have to worry about where they're going to store it. And then most recently, the Harvest Hub, which we will hear more about. So due to our relationships with all of the different stakeholders in our food system, we've been able to really have these conversations over the past 2.5 years. After national supply chains started breaking down, our food shelves were empty in our grocery stores. We were having farmers and ranchers sell out of entire stocks of meat and eggs almost instantly. And there was just a greater conversation about how much our food system infrastructure has struggled over this time. There was a California Center for Rural Policy community food assessment. There was one done in 2010 and another in 2018. Both of them highlighted the fact that the primary limiting factor for local farm growth, as well as local nutrition security, is a lack of food storage options, as well as a lack of food distribution, especially focused for local food. So that again was in 2010 and 2018. And then in 2019, it all come crashing down, and we probably should have listened to that study before. But so hopefully one of the reasons that we're forming the Harvest Hub is to be able to fill some of those gaps and really help local food farmers focus on growing more food, because they have these storage and distribution options to get them to the people who really need it. So this opportunity is not only going to help our farmers, obviously having additional market opportunities for farmers by making it easier for wholesale buyers to buy and pay bills and receive deliveries, since there'll be one point where farmers bring their food, it can be ordered from and distributed out of. So it'll create more market opportunities. It will also help the health of our local economy as well as our community. I mentioned the Harvest Box program before. I just wanted to share that while I believe between last August and this August, the inflation rate on food has risen by over 11%. However, in our Harvest Boxes, I have been able to maintain the same quantity and quality of produce at the same price point as we had since it started 2 years ago. So that just really shows the resiliency of local food. Prices have increased slightly, but nowhere near as much as national rates have. So that's just another thing that we're hoping is that we know will improve, is just the stability of price points, and that it's not as reliant on supply chains and everything like that. So our farmers, we have conducted multiple surveys as well as just feasibility studies that have happened over the past couple decades. And our farmers need immediate access to food infrastructure like cold storage, ordering, distribution, aggregation services. So as soon as we are up and running, we'll immediately be able to offer these services for farmers. So again, we will collect all of the orders that are available for the week, get it to wholesale buyers like Cal Poly, Humboldt County Office of Education, Food for People. We are working with the Food Pantry and Community Food Council up in Del Norte, as well as all of our amazing local restaurants who want to support farmers. It can go on to an online ordering system. It'll be really easy for these businesses to log on, put their order in. Farmers will be able to distribute to one location instead of then having to go to every single person who ordered food from them. And then the hub will be able to take one vehicle out to do the deliveries. So immediately, I think it's going to have a huge impact just on all of the systems locally. And then as we grow into the future, we are really hoping to rely on shared marketing opportunities to be able to market our Humboldt County grown brand. Humboldt obviously is known throughout the state as this amazing agricultural community because of our cannabis, but also we just have really amazing soil and all of our microclimates. So to really take advantage of that, by having all of us together under one roof, we'll be able to engage in those collective marketing opportunities. We will also be creating a shared commercial kitchen space that will be able to be under an umbrella of a food processor's license. So we'll be able to have smaller producers make value-added food for export. So things like jams and jellies, tomato sauces, dried fruits and vegetables, maybe like some mushroom jerky. So all of these things will be much easier for our members to make, and then we can actually market that outside of the county and take advantage of some more export opportunities. So we have a beginning farm worker training and workforce development grant we have just received that we're launching sort of in tandem with the Food Hub. So that's going to be able to help train new farmers and also our existing farmers to support their workforce, so that we'll be able to create and also maintain high quality agricultural jobs here in Humboldt. Again, I talked about our Humboldt County Grown marketing campaign. So that will help bring more food dollars into our county through export, but it will also keep more food dollars within our community. So Cal Poly does have a goal of sourcing 20% of their food locally by 2025. Currently, they're sourcing zero produce from any of our local farmers. So if we really want to maximize the economic multiplier of local food through this huge growth that Cal Poly is experiencing, we need to make it easier for them to access local food. Additionally, emergency food response is obviously high up on a lot of people's minds. We're working collectively with Food for People and the Humboldt COAD, which is the community organizations active in disaster, to map where the gaps in our emergency food system is right now and start to fill those gaps, partially through the Harvest Hub, which will be able to be immediately activated during a disaster. So instead of waiting for FEMA or Red Cross efforts to be mobilized and come into our county, which often takes over 48 hours, we're already here. Our farmers are already here. So we'll be able to immediately start feeding our community while we wait for these larger state and federal efforts to kick in. And of course, I can't talk about our farmers without talking about climate resiliency. Most of our farmers are carbon neutral, if not carbon negative. So even some larger distributors like Rumiano cheese are actually carbon negative because of the growing practices that their organic farmers use. So we need to be able to grow more food from local farmers and get more food to our community from local farmers versus relying on food that is shipped in maybe from throughout the state, maybe the other side of the country, and oftentimes from around the world, which is just not sustainable for our climate. So if we can really increase the amount of food we're growing locally, and also by aggregating food to one location and having one delivery vehicle doing all these deliveries versus all of our 100 farmers doing their individual deliveries, it's really going to help reduce the impact of our farming community even further on our environment. So we all know about all of the exciting projects that are happening in Humboldt right now. So I'm not going to bore you with the details about why our population is exploding and all of the really exciting economic opportunities that are happening right here. But in order to meet this increased population growth, we need to start preparing now. Especially with our local food system. We need to start helping our farmers grow more food today so that they can feed our population tomorrow. So again, we've got Cal Poly Humboldt, Humboldt County Office of Education. We have just so many opportunities for the movement of more local food. There's just a whole national trend of eating more locally, and it's seeping down even into the K through 12 school districts. So there's a ton of demand that we have here locally. We have a lot of support, both from community members and also some financial support for the hub. But I am gonna plug that we always need more. This is a huge business that we are taking on. NCGA Our operating budget has increased, I think, 3 or 4-fold in the past 5 years as we've just met the increased demand for local food through farmers markets. So to build our capacity to be able to meet this increased demand for the food hub, we love equipment. You know, we need shelving, tables. We're going to upgrade a kitchen to be a commercial kitchen space. We're looking for a delivery van. But also we're always just looking for some capital investments as well. So I'm always going to throw that out because with our new, this new business is definitely going to take a lot of collaboration between many of our community members to make this a reality. So I will drop my contact information into the chat when I get out of full screen mode. But again, this is me. And yeah, we can have some questions now.
Great, thanks. That was exciting stuff. Any questions? I see Linda.
Yeah. Hi, Megan. Thank you for that presentation. It's exciting to hear what you're doing. So, and it has any thought, right? It sounds like a lot of the infrastructure that you put in with refrigeration and freezers, you know, are physical capital spaces. Has there been any thought about maybe in the investment in reefer trucks that might be able to be co-sited and used, you know, when the demand is there?
Yeah, so the freezer that we purchased is a refurbished reefer truck or container, I guess, that came over on a ship. The facility that we are moving into now already has cold storage, but part of our emergency response, I just completed a PG&E feasibility study grant for resilience nodes, where the concept is that we would have, these like detached cooler units in isolated communities around that would be solar powered, that could be used during just like regular times. So farmers don't have to travel all the way from Petrolia out to, you know, Arcata to drop food off. They would just be able to drop it off at a node. And again, the hub delivery vehicle would pick up that food and bring it back to us. But then also there would be emergency response plans written into each node where the farmers would either say, you know, like, yes, this food can be donated and used as an emergency response, or like, no, you can't. But so then those units could also be used by feeding programs like Red Cross if they were to limit the amount of delivery vehicles that are coming and going. It could also be a collection point for food where even gardeners know that, you know, I have all of this extra food, I can bring it to this node and then it can get out to the fire evacuees in this area. And that will make it so that if roads are closed, there would still be a food storage access point in the middle of these emergencies, which we know is really important. But then it can also be used during what we call blue sky operations when there's not an emergency. So it's not just a huge investment that's sitting empty and unused for the rest of the time. Larry?
Again, I think a great job and way to go on this, the continuing to work on this program since 1978. It's a huge part of our community, and I think it's critically important. Last night at the Harbor District, we have a fishermen's subcommittee, and so we talked about ways to increase commercial fish sales off of the vessels in the bay, of really trying to have a more coordinated program to try to increase that. We also looked at kind of the possibility of expanding our external storage area and then putting some electrical hookups so people could bring some of the containerized freezers facilities at Woodley Island, so that, you know, they can store fish and then do value-added products and other kinds of things to go in, and really kind of expand some of our facilities to allow for some of those things. And then, you know, secondarily with the commercial fishermen, because I think they're part of this grow local and local products movement, you know, we're really discussing, you know, some of the potential impacts of the offshore wind industry and then how that might affect them. And then really the need to have a coordinated plan for some of this this infrastructure that we're talking about around the bay of how can we help the fishermen to kind of weather the storm and have some strategically targeted infrastructure, that we can all sort of work together, that could also benefit some non-fishermen people during some of the gap or bridges in the season, because that's one of the core issues that we've had when we've looked at this issue over the long term, is that if you look at just one segment of the farm community, just the nature of the way the crops work, they come on and they need it for just a certain window. And then another crop comes in and they need it. And so if you look at it from an individual standpoint, then there's no way it can cash flow. It's just no way it'll cash flow. And that's just kind of the inherent nature of the farmers. And then my last little sort of diatribe, and then I'll throw it over is, and I'm kind of throwing this at Matthew, is that what kind of happens is that these containers are actually really poorly energy efficient. It's not the highest and best use. And so really kind of working with RCEA or some other programs of how can we really try to make these freezer units as energy efficient as possible, because anybody that's run a freezer knows how expensive they are to operate. It's very expensive to have these freezers. And like when I was in Arcata and we were doing the food works, is worked with RCAA and really tried to make these freezer units as energy efficient as possible, because it really makes a big difference on the operating costs of these things. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, we are very excited. I also want to share, I think I forgot, I wasn't really reading my notes, but we do have some shared office spaces here so that we can really reduce some redundancies in our food system. So not only do we have Community Alliance with family farmers, Humboldt Maid is going to be here, but also Ashley Seafood is going to be renting an office here so we can help her with the dockside market that she is starting. And also just like sharing resources, like I sent over the 2015 like cold storage facility feasibility study that the city of Eureka did. So we very much, see us not as, just because we're supporting farmers doesn't mean that we're not part of this whole entire food system. So we're definitely working with Ashley to figure out how we can support like all of our fisher community as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I know that I sometimes I can't stop myself, but because we also operate out of Shelter Cove, it was a big issue for the fishermen at Shelter Cove because they were actually, they got shut down by the Department of Health because they were like in Bridge, I think it was in the Garberville, Redwood area where they were doing kind of farmers markets, is that the Department of Health was saying they couldn't sell, their fish because they were not processed in a adequate facility. And so even though you had local fishermen that had been selling in farmers markets and other things, because of not meeting the health code, it really diminished the public's ability to get access to those good, high quality food, but also for the fishermen to be able to get access to markets. So we worked in Shelter Cove, and we actually have permitted that we would do a commercial fishing, kind of a commercial kitchen facility, a fish cleaning station. And so we actually have a building that is permitted, and we got all of the coastal development permits for it. And we're working with, we have a memorandum of agreement between the Shelter Cove Fishermen's Preservation Incorporated, the Harbor District, and the Resort Improvement District to try to get that all off the ground.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, in terms of your hierarchy of needs, and I think this is the third time I've seen your presentation. I enjoyed every time. And your building's beautiful. I enjoyed the reception you guys had out there. In terms of your hierarchy of needs, what is like, we need this first, this second, and this third?
Good question. We definitely need some food safe aggregation equipment. So like shelving, stainless steel tables, things like that. Right now we have sort of those like folding tables with the plastic. Isn't technically food safe. So that is, that's definitely one of our needs. And primarily we're hoping to just find, especially, at least the first 6 months of rent of the gap that we have between our renters and the grant funding. So that's sort of our next need is rent. until we can expand what we're doing to the point where the buying and selling of food is going to cover that. Obviously, food price margins are fairly low. So especially while we create these systems, we're not going to be selling as much food in January as we are next December while we so we're looking for our first year of rent.
And you predicted that you will be reaching some sort of profitability or at least break even status by next growing season, or?
Yeah, we actually, Laura and I are taking a food financing food hub boot camp.
Oh, fun.
It's super interesting. So they helped us work on like our pitch deck, but more importantly, just our pro forma. So yeah, taking actual numbers that we have gotten from interested buyers and all of the funding that like Food for People is getting this year and everything. After the first year, we'll be operating at a slight loss, but by year 2, we should be covering all of our expenses at least.
Cool. Well, let us know how we can help with that once that's in development. I get off on pro formas. It's a weird thing, but that's,
I don't even know if I knew what it meant until I took this boot camp.
Nice. Perfect.
So where's the new location located? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I guess I also used our mixer deck, so everyone was already here and seeing the space. So I feel like I skipped over a lot of that in this presentation. It's out on West End Road across from West Green. So it was an old cannabis processing facility. So it already has all of the cold storage and sort of larger aggregation space needs that we had versus everywhere else we were looking. We were going to have to invest into cold storage, which was just going to be pretty prohibitively expensive for us. But what we really like about this location is there's multiple exit routes. So even if the 299 is closed, we have West End Road that we could get out. If the 101 is closed, we can still sort of circumvent to other communities. We're right along the 299, and we also have a bunch of farmers out on West End Road. So we're really along an agricultural thoroughway, I suppose. We share a power grid with Mad River Hospital, which I think is beneficial. It only sounds like a good thing in my mind. We're also out of the flood zone here, but we're also right down the street from FoodWorks. So we really imagine that a lot of people from FoodWorks, we'll be able to sort of make one delivery really quickly over to there and reach all of the people who are there at FoodWorks. Ashley Seafood does her fish over there, so she can go be doing her fish and come over here to our offices. So we think it's a really ideal location.
Good.
Well, and I'll just add, as was noted, we do love our energy efficiency at RCEA, and and have offerings for refrigeration. I know, like, just sort of as a anecdote, like the West Haven Volunteer Fire Department has a big walk-in freezer because we do like blackberry pies every year, with the ladies club, and we did like pretty minor cost upgrades, but just added some equipment to that old walk-in, and it was like you'd look at the power bill and it like dropped by like 20% or something. Now that was a pretty crusty old walk-in, so it had a lot of opportunity. But and then you mentioned on the resilience front, that's like a pretty high priority for us, and it sounds like you guys are already on top of pursuing funding, but that's something that's sort of in our mission to support. So if there's needs there, whether it's technical assistance or helping secure funding or whatever, that's something we can help with too. So
awesome, thank you.
So Greg, were you going to share something, or you were just showing where they're located? Great. So Megan, thank you for being a chamber member. And we want to be able to support you as the chamber and the farm industry and all the good things that you are doing. So if you could ask the chamber for one thing, besides we're not a money granting organization, but what can we do to support you and the work of the Food Hub and the work of NCGA in general?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Diana about this after that economic development roundtable a couple weeks ago, because I find that we have all of these amazing leaders of business and industry, and we get together and the catered food is all of these, delicious grapes and melon, which are in season right now in Humboldt. So I know it's not necessarily cost effective to be able to buy all of the local meat is maybe not something you're going to buy for a free meal that you're giving out to folks. But what I would love to see at the chamber level, at city and county levels, is maybe some sort of promise to try and source at least 20% of your food locally for events like that, which hopefully the Harvest Hub will help you do, because we'll be able to just connect you right away. You won't have to go chasing farmers around, which is definitely a task in and of itself. But I think pretty easily and fairly cost effectively, all of our city and county and chambers could prioritize caterers who promise to use at least 20% local ingredients when available. And I think that would be huge for our local food, and also would be really great publicity for all of you guys. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Nick, who's on our planning committee for our annual gala, member meeting and gala, which is going to be fun. But I can't remember who else was part of the conversation. Maybe you were too, Megan, but I was, or no, it was Catherine. And thinking, could we do 100% locally grown at our annual, gathering? I don't think that that's possible for this year, but Nick will be influential as to, who we're bringing in. And we do, within our group have a stated commitment to doing as much local as we can. So yes. So anything else that we can do to promote what you're doing, I'll go ahead and share this recording in our newsletter if I can get that. If our team can get that set up, I think they can, but just have a link to it in our newsletter. But other things that we can do, for you as a member.
I don't think so. You're doing so great for us, Nancy. Just connecting us to this group. I feel like all I do is talk about the Food Hub, but every time there's new people who haven't heard of it yet. And I feel like this is just such an exciting project that's really going to benefit so many members of our community. So yeah, just tell all your friends, yell it from the rooftops.
I'll just say, back in my ill-spent youth, I think it was after I graduated, just last week. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I forget, it was like 6 months or something like that, just to try it out. I ate nothing but locally produced food. So I was like, all right, I'm only going to buy and eat things that are, from Humboldt County. And so it's quite possible. It helps if you like meat and eggs and cheese, but it's definitely possible. So.
Yeah, and I think if everyone makes that 20% promise, you see how easy 20% is. So then maybe once that's easy, you do 25. Maybe eventually everyone has a promise to do 50% locally. I think it's just baby steps, but especially having a single point of contact who can then reach out to our entire network of farmers is really going to help make that 20% just like a walk in the park, hopefully.
Well, I think that one of the commonalities is, an organization like yours, which is really designed to help other businesses, which is similar to the chamber. And so then it kind of gets down to sort of this core thing of within your own business model is they have a tendency to spend so much time helping other people that, it's hard to get your own core business in financial, straits and having a sustainable, program. And it's kind of a commonality with the organizations like yours and the chamber, and there's a dozen of them, that are out there. And so it's really difficult to get that sustainability going and keep the cash flow going, but while at the same time, trying to help these other businesses. And so really kind of striking that balance has got to be difficult. And so on that front, with the sustainability of yourself, as opposed to the promotion of other businesses, what kind of things do you think that could really use some help? Because you talked about getting the rent just for the next 6 months, but these are really critical pieces for an organization like yours.
We are looking at our organization as a whole as sort of two separate entities. Now we have the farmers markets and we have the food hub, and we are putting some pretty strict lines between the way that we operate our farmers markets and generate revenue for the farmers markets to direct, which are like really what directly support all of our farmers and all of our members. Those finances are going to be completely separated from the food hub finances. Just to make sure that we aren't losing. And we have, separate, I'm sort of the cooperative distribution director. We have like a marketing director of market operations. So just being able to have enough staff time to be able to separate that and really make sure that we're still giving our farmers all of our attention in the high quality markets that they have come to know and love, while I'm sort of nose down at the grind, doing all of the other things to make sure that the Harvest Hub business model can be successful.
I have another question for you, Megan. What's your relationship, if any, with the Farm Bureau?
Yeah, one of our farmers, Ginger, I think is on the board of the Farm Bureau. So we definitely like them and appreciate them and have some crossover between our members and ourselves. I personally don't know too many people there, but they just got a new director who we will be meeting with soon.
Yeah, they're not a chamber member, but I am meeting with them tomorrow.
So what about like years ago, it seemed like there was more of a presence, maybe there is now that I'm just not aware of it. It's kind of like the UC Ag extension and some of those other kind of programs. Are those still active, and do they?
We just got a new Ag extension guy. He's been on the job for like 2 weeks. So
yeah.
Yeah, Dorina Espinosa from UC Cooperative Extension. She does mainly like the 4-H and like educational aspects, but she's been integral in this whole process. She's been involved since I think the very first meeting that I was at. So yeah, she's been super involved, and we just met with Eddie, who's the new specialty crop advisor there, who is a farmer, deep-seated farm. So we have always worked very closely with Eddie. So we're really excited that he is the one to step into that position. But yeah, we will continue to work closely with them, especially with his new advisor position being filled. We've been without a specialty crop advisor for a couple of years here. And being such an agriculturally dense location in California, it was sort of an interesting choice, but we're glad he's back.
Well, we have a new, I guess he's Forrest, I'm trying to find his, Alec Domka. He's he's brand new on the job. Rural Community and Economic Development Advisor. So I don't know if you had a chance to meet with him yet, but I met him for the first time in Bakersfield a couple weeks ago, and he just started the job. He's going to be based out of Crescent City, but he's going to cover the region. So the new rural development guy. All right. Uncomfortable silence falls over the group.
All right.
Let's go, Matthew. Facilitate this thing.
We count on you, Greg, to fill the uncomfortable silences. No, I think we're pretty much at time to give people a transition period between their next event of the day. So yeah, this was super exciting stuff. And I think, from a chamber perspective, it's easy to forget that like farms are businesses and fishermen are businesses, and it's not just like bricks and mortar sort of retail and construction and stuff like that. So exciting stuff, and hopefully you'll have additional open houses out there. I was out of town for the one a month or two ago, but yeah, and I'm gonna send your contact info over to our folks that work on energy efficiency and resilience, and kind of say, hey, because I think, all the things you talked about are like, the stuff that's very exciting to us as far as the hubs and, just figuring out how to, the energy part of that, not the food part of it, is the part of keeping the stuff cold, the keeping the stuff cold and the moving it around, and so, with that, and sorry, we record these so that people that can't attend are able to watch them. We should have warned you that was coming, but hopefully that's okay. All right, well, everybody have a good day, and go buy some local food and enjoy it.
Yeah, and thank you for the presentation, and I think I will make it a priority. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.